evening, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Um, Today, I want to make a video on a spiritual topic. This runs outside our regular curriculum of our permaculture series, but I had mentioned that I will do this every so often in my introductory video. That being making a random video on a topic that also interests, and any other topic that interests me outside of permaculture. Namely spirituality, since my channel is devoted both to permaculture and spirituality. But it can be on any topic. Any of my random videos can be on any topic. This one just so happens to be on spirituality, and we'll be discussing a spiritual topic today, or more precisely a spiritual technique or spiritual practice. And before I dive into what this practice is that we're going to be dissecting, I want to preface this video really quick just by saying that my videos on spiritual topics are going to be focused on techniques and methods. So I'm not going to be talking about different beliefs or philosophies and the particulars of each of those different beliefs and philosophies. I may make videos like that every so often, but I'm mainly going to be talking about spirituality in practical terms, in scientific terms, in ways that help you develop spiritually in this reality here and now, in this physical reality we all know. Reason being is because I don't want people to get confused thinking that these spiritual techniques or methods are gonna, earn them some sort of credit for after they die or anything like that. These are more beneficial here. They say nothing. They don't really say anything about anything definite or concrete about what will happen to you after you leave this place. Although they can help in your journey to finding that answer, to finding a certain philosophy or belief that you identify with. They can certainly help with that, but they're not the direct means to that answer. If you are concerned about things such as personal salvation or salvation in general, then you're going to have to find the answer out on your own. Like I said before, spiritual belief is a very personal thing. And so for me, as far as salvation goes, for me that rests in my relationship with God and my relationship with Jesus Christ. So yeah, you're gonna my spiritual videos are not gonna be focusing on that. They're gonna be focusing on the cultivation of your spirituality, and you can, after cultivating such spirituality, you can apply it to any sort of path or belief or system that you'd like. So with that out of the way, the practice I want to talk about today, this practice is fundamental. It's a core practice that all different spiritual and religious traditions share. They all have this in common. And what that is the practice of sexual discipline and sexual energy cultivation. It's the practice of mind and body control, and the practice of controlling your lower nature. Now, why is this common to at least all the serious spiritual and religious traditions? Why is this a common theme or practice? Well, the answer to that is quite simple, actually. The answer is because they all share the same common goal. And the common goal of all of these spiritual and religious traditions is the transformation, growth, and evolution of the human being and the human soul. So what all of these traditions seek to do is to take the basic form, or the lower form, the animalistic form of a man or woman, and to elevate that to a more upstanding and refined and human form. So basically, going from an animal and turning into a full-fledged human being. So this becomes easier and easier, this sort of process, this sort of transformation, the longer and longer you go cultivating sexual energy. And neither a man or woman has any, I should say that it's different for a man and woman how this mechanism works of sexual cultivation. But I'll get into that in a little bit. First, though, just the general cultivation of the sexual energy, it translates into higher and higher phases of spiritual development. And besides just the spiritual lines of thinking as regards this practice also bestows many benefits upon your intellect. It bolsters your intellect, your physicality, and the health and integrity of your body in general, of your internal organs and the processes therein. Now, the generator of this energy, well, first I should say sexual energy in the different scientific systems of spirituality, namely, I'll be referencing yoga and Taoism. In yoga, the raw sexual energy is referred to as virya. Virya, it would correlate in a man, it would correlate to his sperm, his spermatozoa. In a woman, that would be her ovum. And the generator of this energy then would be in the testicles of a man, in his generative organ. And the same in a woman, it would be in her ovaries. Now, when you start to build up a large amount of virya through retaining your semen, or retaining your ovum through disciplined sexual behavior and relations, what starts to happen is it starts to slowly refine into higher forms of energy. So it might start out as virya. In yogic terms, it's virya. In Taoism, virya is the same as jing. So it starts out as jing or virya, and then it turns into prana, or in Taoist terms, it would be chi. And what prana is in yoga, it's defined as this sort of energy that permeates the entire cosmos, all living things, all different motions and processes and actions that go on in the universe. They're charged with prana, or chi. And so yeah, it's this very primordial energy or essence that is inherent in all of creation. And so you're starting to pool this inside of you. And as it starts to rise up your body, your energy centers, not your physical body, because we all know that in the physical body of a man, anatomically speaking, there's no duct, connected to your testicles that allows for physical semen to travel up through. That's an obvious fact. However, in your energetic body, you have the chakras, or the 7 chakras, and this is where refined forms of energy move up and down through. These are the energy centers of your soul, or your etheric body. And yeah, so for men to cultivate this energy, all that simply has to be done is they have to get a hold of, or get a control of, if they're non-disciplined with their the use of their semen. They have to form some sort of discipline so that their semen stays intact and that it's not constantly being ejaculated out of their body. And over weeks or days, weeks, months, this becomes more and more concentrated, and you have more of an energy pool to pull from. And then you can use this for different things. You can use this for your intellectual pursuits, your work, your physical pursuits, exercise, sports, and your spiritual pursuits, your connection with your spirituality, with your soul, with the higher part of you, with the greater part of you. So if you don't have this, if you are, very undisciplined with your sexuality, your sexual energy, as a man in particular, you'll be in a very, very low space. You'll be operating from a very low space, namely the lower chakras, and also in the mental way, you'll be, you might be anxious, depressed, a whole slew of bad symptoms. This is because you are lacking, vital nutrients and vital energy that your body would have otherwise if you were not disrespecting it. And a little side note here is that in women are a little naturally more in contact with this energy. They store it a little more better because they only lose it really when they have their period, and they're losing their ovum, or during or if they're very sexually promiscuous, they also lose the energy because during the sex act in a woman, her ovaries will the ovum will start to move out of her ovaries, and they'll get ready for reproduction, and so she can also lose the energy in that manner. But guys, they're not limited to the amount of ejaculations they have, so this can be a problem. You can run into a problem here, because this can lead to men being in what I would call a chronic state of PMS, where they're experiencing the same symptoms a woman would have on the day of or the couple days after her period, but day in and day out, this is like their daily operational level. So that's not a good thing. And so yeah, men would lose their virya, this power, this inherent power through ejaculation, either voluntary or involuntary. Now, what do I mean by involuntary? I mean through nocturnal emissions or wet dreams. Now, granted that the energy lost through a wet dream is much less substantial than if you were to voluntarily do it, like in an awake state. It is still a slight loss of energy, so it should generally be avoided if you're a serious practitioner, if you're really, really trying to cultivate a large amount of spiritual energy. And to avoid things like that, I have a couple of methods I might discuss later in the video, but yeah, those are best avoided, and they can be avoided. I mean, a lot of people say it's natural. It's just the body's natural way of shedding excess fluid, but I would have to disagree. I mean, there is ways to still conserve that energy and that fluid and recirculate it and reuse it through your physical body and your energetic body. Now, all the different saints, mystics, yogis, prophets, etc., or just great men and women, they don't have to fall under any of those categories. Great business owners, great athletes, great artists, great leaders in general. They all either practice this either consciously or unconsciously. I would rather, this be something, a norm, that's the norm or unconscious. I think it should be the norm. It's just, sex can be very easily weaponized, and it is against people, unfortunately. So with this practice, it makes you just more sovereign and free from all that. And they would use this energy as a fuel for all their spiritual efforts or any other sort of pursuit. And a fun fact, like, if you look at certain types of iconography or iconography, iconography is artistic depictions of saints, and you might see it in like stained glass paintings in churches, or just in general drawings, general artwork. You can find iconography. And the different saints depicted in that type of artwork, they typically have a halo around their head, or this sort of aura or glow around their head. It's like this golden circle around their head. And what that actually is all of their sublimated sexual energy or essence turning into the highest form of energy, in the upper two chakras. And you can see this in real life examples too of people who actually participate in this practice. They tend to have a glow about them that's very noticeable. Now, as far as my personal experience with this practice goes, I had decided to embark on this sort of practice upon graduating high school. I thought it would be a healthy thing to do. I learned about it around that time, so I thought, why not? This would be a good thing to do upon graduating high school. And so I did, but I didn't really get too into the scientific or yogic side of it. I didn't really know about all that. I kind of experienced it naturally as I progressed upon the practice. And ironically enough, even though I didn't know a lot about it, I managed to go a very long time without releasing not even in a wet dream when I was around that age. And looking back at it now, I can kind of see the reason why, and it's a very interesting reason, because this isn't sort of, besides like things like meditation, yoga, prayer, which help to transmute any of the excess energy you still might have after like a full day of whatever else you normally do, whether it be school, work, or whatever. You might still have excess energy around. So what meditation does is it helps you draw up the rest of the energy and place it in the different centers of your body, so that it's not all stagnated at the very root of your body, at the very root chakra. And I wasn't doing any of those things back then. But what I did do, interestingly enough, was I had also begun using cannabis very heavily, for better. I'm gonna say for better. At that time, I would use it every time before I'd go to bed. And anyone who uses cannabis heavily definitely knows that it disrupts their sleep cycle. So you will gloss over your REM cycle of sleep. Typically, if you indulge in any cannabis before sleep, you won't have any dreams. You pass over your REM cycles. I wouldn't be having very many dreams at night, and so I'd wake up there would be no opportunity for a wet dream to occur. Also, another interesting fact, another thing about cannabis is when you're combining it with celibacy or with semen retention, is it immediately, what yoga does and what meditation do over a prolonged period, psychedelics such as cannabis, they do pretty much instantaneously. They immediately take all your jing or your virya and they turn it right into prana and right into ohas and tehas, or shen. In Taoism, it's 3 different levels. It's jing, qi, and shen. In yoga, it would be 4. It would be virya, prana, and then ohas and tehas. So it immediately takes it all and does it for you. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So I still use it as a tool for that very reason. I just have a more scheduled approach to it now. So I might do it every 4, 5, 6 days, depending if I need to. If I feel that, I might experience an unwanted wet dream that I'd rather avoid, I'll use it for that reason. So that's kind of a pro tip there. I have not seen any other practitioners, either on YouTube or in any sort of literature, mention the use of cannabis, but from personal experience, it's a very good tool in that regard. What else can I say? I also, in the 3.5 years or so that I've been practicing this, I also have a much greater zest and enthusiasm for every single thing I do. Um, Obviously, I have a much more enriched spiritual life, much greater connection to my God, to my faith, and to my higher self. And another cool thing to take note of is, as far as this physical aspect goes, it has helped me tremendously in some of my athletic efforts. As far as, like, I'm very into lifting now, so it helps with that. And I've also never been sick even once, or even felt like I was about to be sick in those 3.5 years. So it also bestows a very robust immunity upon the practitioner. Now, one important distinction I want to make is that between semen retention and celibacy. So celibacy does imply semen retention, but semen retention does not imply celibacy. So celibacy, usually it comes along with a lot of moral implications. Usually celibacy is done in the context of a religious reason or religious precept. But retention just means withholding your sexual fluids in order to have enough raw energy for the development of your higher spiritual centers. So if I would recommend celibacy for a beginner in this practice, just so that they can get a hold on the actual sexual discipline and the actual cultivation of their energy. Because if they dive right into things such as like Karezza or Tantra or different Taoist sexual techniques, even if they do have, even if they are in a committed relationship and it'd be a healthy thing to do, it might not be very practical because they're used to always, they kind of have it drilled into their head, they're used to always ejaculating during a sexual act. So it might be difficult to start practicing that for a long time right from the get-go. So I'd recommend celibacy as a beginning thing, or even something you can do long-term too. It's not negative as far as any health impacts go. But if you do happen to, find someone eventually, or if you are in a committed relationship, or if you want to be like a spiritual playboy per se, although I wouldn't recommend that because you'd be exchanging energy with a lot of different people, and that can be a lot of memory to take on, so it would not be the most wise way of practicing, retention, in my opinion. I think if you're in a committed, loving relationship, that would be the best context in which you can still practice sexual retention while still engaging in sexual acts. The only thing with that is that that takes practice. And so a good YouTube channel, if you want to learn more information about things such as Karezza or Tantra, it goes by the name of Sexual Kung Fu. The creator of that channel, his name is Jonathan White, and he goes into much detail about how to separate, orgasm from ejaculation, and how to properly, engage in those sorts of sexual practices where you're still able to retain your energy and cultivate your energy. Because becomes kind of like a double whammy. You get the benefits of sexual activity and you get the benefits of retention at the same time. So I can only go into so much detail about this practice in this one video. I might make a second video about the same practice because there's a lot to talk about the specific fundamental practice. So like I said, I'd recommend his channel if you want to learn if you're interested in what I talked about today and you want to learn more. And one more side note before I end the video. Has to deal with fluoride and semen retention. So fluoride, either in your toothpaste or in, say, the water in your shower or in your sink, if you come in contact through your skin or through your mouth, it starts to accumulate in a certain place in your body, in a certain center, namely in the hormonal gland that it accumulates in is your pineal gland, and that corresponds to your Ajna chakra or your third eye chakra. And this essentially what it does is it deactivates that gland, or it's operating at a much less functional level. So when you are, raising your energy upwards for these higher chakras, and say it gets to your third eye, there's going to be a blockage there, and so your entire channel way is not going to be running as efficiently, and you're not going to be able to as easily move the energy up and down with a calcified pineal gland. So what I'd recommend doing is just being mindful of your fluoride intake at the very least. Maybe switching from your regular fluoride toothpaste to an alternative non-fluoridated toothpaste. Maybe using those interchangeably, or maybe just using the alternative toothpaste if that works for you. And also supplementing in your diet with iodine, because iodine really helps to decalcify that gland. So that's about all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. And I'll see you all in the next video. It should be our second chapter on permaculture. Thank you.